Hello, YouTube land. This is Bron Mincher coming to you just outside of Denver, Colorado to tell you about my above ground pool heater that I installed earlier this year. It's allowed us to extend our pool season. It's been fantastic. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I found it and how I got it installed. Like many Americans, we wanted something fun and safe we could do at home this summer during the COVID-19 pandemic with our kids. And so early in the spring, we were surfing around the internet late one night and wound up buying the Intex Above Ground Pool you see behind us. It made us first-time pool owners. We've never had any experience with this. We still have plans to design and install a traditional in-ground pool, but obviously that takes a lot of time and everybody's a little bit busy right now. So this was a great solution. It was very simple. It was very easy to install, and we had a great season with the pool. The heater has certainly allowed us to extend that pool season. It's now mid-October in Colorado. We also hope we're going to get ready to winterize the pool very soon for the winter, but are hoping that the heater will allow us to get use of it a little earlier next year and also make better use of it during some of the colder days during the summer when the sun's not there as much. But as you may have read, there was a great Wall Street Journal article earlier this summer talking about how America is awash in above ground pools. We're certainly one of those American families that's purchased one. I think they're almost impossible to get at this point. We're lucky we bought ours early. And as I said earlier, our families made great use out of this. I found lots of great videos on YouTube to help me get the pool selected and get it installed. And I'm hopeful that most people will find this video equally as helpful with the heater. I was unable to find very many YouTube videos that talked about how to select the heater and more importantly, how to install it. So I learned a lot of this on my own and I hope to share that in this video. Again, there's lots of videos that talk about the Intex pools and above ground pools. So I'm really gonna focus on the heater in this one and what I did in my particular situation. This is my very first public YouTube video, so I hope you'll give me comments and feedback below, but I hope you'll keep those constructive so I do more information in the future. I'm really doing this as a way to help people and provide some of the same information that I got when I was selecting the pool. Everything in this video is based on my own personal experience. Your application may obviously be different. We live just outside of Denver, Colorado. We're very fortunate that we've got blue skies, almost no trees around. It's really kind of been an ideal location, but there's different areas of the country that have different climates, so your application may be very different. We've got a lot of sunshine. We were able to leverage solar heating for most of the summer, only needed the pool as we got in the fall. And so again, every application is just a little bit different. Obviously, a pool heater like this involves a lot of utilities. So there's gas, there's electric, there's plumbing. If you're not comfortable or qualified, certainly engage a professional. I tried to do that. I couldn't find anybody that was available or interested in doing a project this size. So I ended up doing a ton of research and planned this out very, very well. I installed the pool heater myself over the Labor Day weekend. I had all the parts and pieces for the most part ready to go, and it still took me about 2 days. I think if I was a professional doing this, I could probably install them in 5 or 6 hours, but it is quite a project. It's certainly more complicated than installing a gas barbecue outside your home, but is probably more in line with if you're comfortable installing a furnace or a hot water heater, this might be a project for you. I learned a lot in the process that I want to share, and I hope you'll really enjoy this video. So let me get into some of the nuts and bolts of it right now. Thanks for watching. I ended up purchasing a Hayward 150,000 BTU pool heater online. It seems that Hayward and Raypak are the two predominant brands of pool heaters. Both seem to be really good and highly competitive. I looked at a bunch of different options which were not specific for being pool heaters. There's a couple of good YouTube videos of people that have camping type heaters that run on propane. There's some traditional hot water heaters that are tankless. And then there's a bunch of other options I looked at online that weren't really set up for being pool heaters. I ultimately decided not to use any of those because they're not set up for the corrosiveness that either chlorine or the saltwater system would bring. And considering the relatively reasonable price of specific pool heaters, that would be my recommendation. The model I got is, again, the Hayward 150,000 BTUs. I ended up thoroughly reading the manual online before the heater arrived, so I knew what to expect. I ended up purchasing this from a company online called Swimming Pool Supply USA for $1,600 delivered. The transaction went flawlessly, and somebody called and coordinated to deliver it with a liftgate truck. We stored it in the garage overnight and then ultimately ended up moving it here. We need to be aware it weighs about 150 pounds, so it takes a couple of people to move it safely. The minimum pump size, we've just got the standard Intex pump that came with it, which has worked surprisingly well for the summer. We've also got a saltwater system. The manual says that the minimum pump size is 20 to 40 gallons per minute. So whatever pump you have, you'll want to make sure it's got that. And there's also a safety feature in the heater, which requires that the pump be running in order for the gas heater to light. And so it's going to need pressure from the pump. Our particular pump is only set up to run 6 hours per day on a timer, so the heater will only run those exact same 6 hours. So if there was ever an application that you needed the heater running longer, you need to make sure that your pump is continuing to provide pressure, or it will, for a safety feature, it will automatically shut off. We ended up just mounting the pipes and everything out of the heater on this side. It oriented well in the space we had under a little bit of a staircase here to keep it sheltered from the elements. But I was really impressed with the Hayward design and engineering. There's certainly a way you can move the pipes on the other side if for whatever reason your application only allowed the pipes and such to come in the other side. There's a way that you can swap everything. So that was really neat. The thermostat option, I'll talk more about it when we end up running it, but you're seeing it showing low pressure now. It's got two different settings on it, one for a hot tub and one for a pool. We normally keep the pool function on 65 degrees, which is the minimum, to just keep the water from freezing or the fittings, and then use the hot tub feature to put it like in the 90s where our kids tend to like it, but it's really helpful. It also has a gauge. When I start it up here, you'll see in a minute, that actually shows the temperature of the water going through it, which I found incredibly helpful. One thing I intend to do this winter, I didn't have time to and didn't know that it was really even available, is to put a remote setup on it. So there's some way we can wire into this and either be able to control this with our iPhone, or at the very least be able to see the pool temperature. We currently have just a very simple, it's called an ambient weather, to show us what the pool temperature is. Right now it's 93 degrees. We heated it a little bit this morning. We used it this afternoon. We're kind of getting in the afternoon where it's not as hot, but with this heater, we could certainly heat it up well over 100 degrees if we wanted to. We're getting ready to winterize the pool for the season. And so my plan is to take the heater indoors, just so nothing in it freezes over the winter. I've actually got it up on blocks, which I think is smart in case there was any sort of a water leak down here, or we don't let any of our equipment get ruined. We had a very small water leak in one of the fittings, actually for the backflow valve, and so that's the water you see on the ground right now. But I've got a plan to use a furniture dolly to move this around over the winter and store it inside. And when you're looking at heating your pool, one of the things I found out is there's really a couple of different ways you can do it. You can use propane, which is certainly easy to come by. And there's a fascinating video on YouTube that talks about a guy using his barbecue and running coils through it. Considered that for a very brief amount of time. But propane is relatively expensive. Some places it's much easier to get to than natural gas. And if you're using the traditional canisters like in a barbecue, you're going to go through an awful lot of those. You can do some calculators online and do the math, but it's possible you could go through 2 or 3 of those tanks a day, and we didn't want to do that. Electric is another way that you can heat water, but it's incredibly inefficient. In most places in the country, it's relatively expensive, so I didn't go that route. Depending where you are, you can also use something called a heat pump. It's not really an option for us in Colorado. The fuel I ended up going with was natural gas, and that's the brown pipe you're seeing over here. I got incredibly lucky that the previous homeowner where we're at had already stubbed natural gas in this area, I think with the intention of a barbecue here. And so we were basically able to just get what are called nipples at Home Depot pre-threaded and extend the natural gas piping all the way around for our pool heater. It is very important that you size the right size pool heater for your application. There's lots of calculators online. Pool heaters are rated by something called BTU, which stands for British Thermal Unit. The technical definition of a BTU is the amount of energy it will take to heat 1 pound of water. The really quick calculation is you take the surface area and divide it by 3. And so in my particular situation, it came up to about 254 square feet. But basically for most above ground pools, anything better than 100,000 BTUs will be adequate. So 150,000 was a bit overkill. I think they also make a 300,000 or 400,000 BTU unit. It would burn twice as much gas, but it would be twice as efficient in in the heating of what it does. But there's a lot of calculators online. Just make sure you size whatever you're going to do to your pool size, and you run some calculations so you don't undersize your heater. Again, this is for a natural gas implementation. Something really important to think about, depending where you're located in the country, is altitude. Plays a big role. And I took the cover off here so we can take a peek inside in what's in this end here. But I think like 10% of the people live above 2,000 feet altitude. We live in just north of Denver, so we're just over the Mile High City, just over 5,000 feet. So it was really relevant to us to make sure that the pool heater would function at this altitude. There is this plate here you can see, it's got an altitude on it. We had to swap out. And it's similar to an orifice like in a carburetor. And I pulled out a couple of the other plates to show you. These are different size plates. This one here is good for 0 to 2,000 feet, and it has a hole in it that's this size. This one for natural gas, it looks like is good to up to 10,100 feet, and it's got a different size air vent in here. And basically these get installed. Let me show you where. They're called the blower air inlet plates, and that is the same plate you're seeing here, but it swaps in and out very, very easily. So we had to do that based on the altitude. So make sure if you get one of these heaters that you read the directions and you understand the altitude, and that it will be adequate for whatever altitude you're at. If you're less than 2,000 feet, most of them come out of the box set up for that, and that's typical. So it would only be above 2,000 feet in most cases. In my case, you want to mount everything near your other pool equipment. And so you can see where the Intex pipe comes into the filter and then goes through the pump. It comes out. Normally this hose here would either go straight to the pool or go to your saltwater system. All we essentially do is splice in, coming out of the pump here, into the pool heater. And these are some union devices that come with the pool heater, and then this is just standard 2-inch pipe, but you have to permanently, using like PVC or ABS glue these in here. I ended up buying online, just so I'd have them, 2 extra unions from Hayward. They were about $30 total, but I figured if I ever had to break something or did a repair, these are the pieces that once you glue them, they're glued. So I wanted to have those available. I decided to locate obviously everything in good proximity to the pool. I had earlier extended the pool pump and the saltwater system just a little bit away from the pool. We're very fortunate. We have this staircase here. I put everything underneath it so it would have some protection from the elements, primarily from sunshine. Obviously the UV just destroys anything that's outside, particularly in Colorado. And so having air to the heater, particularly being natural gas, was super important. Both for intake air and also for any of the venting. So I wanted to have an area that still had a lot of airflow with it, but was out of the way. The kids wouldn't mess with it. And so this was my first year implementation. I'll make it a lot cleaner and neater next year. As I talked about before, this is 3/4 inch NPT, which stands for National Pipe Thread. They're called nipples. You just buy them at Lowe's or at Home Depot. They're pre-threaded. You need to use the special Teflon tape for natural gas with them. But we were able to get those in a whole bunch of pre-made sizes. And this is how all my fittings connected in here. You definitely want to have a gas valve near it, so if you need to turn it off. And then there's a union in here to be able to connect it very easily. We painted everything so it wouldn't rust. If you use the regular black pipe and water gets on it, it will rust, and that's bad. So I was able to buy some of this special Rust-Oleum paint that we put on here that will prevent it from rusting. You've got to be careful about using these flex gas connections. And if you do, in this particular size application, first of all, they should never be more than, I believe, 24 or 48 inches. Read your manual, but they need to be this size, 3/4 inch or an inch. There's a chart in the book. When I was at Home Depot, I was trying to get some fittings to work together, and the guy was trying to get me to go down to this 1/2 inch flexible tubing, but based on the BTUs of my heater, that was not adequate. So these people don't know about this stuff. You need to make sure that the size of the piping is really important, and you need to make sure that the size of the piping you use all the way to the device is adequate for the number of BTUs you have. Realize, maybe a traditional furnace is like 150,000 BTUs, but maybe a barbecue is only 40 or 50,000 BTUs, and maybe a dryer is 80 or 90,000. So it uses different size stuff than what most people are used to. I ended up, based on the materials I had available at the time, using hard pipe to get all the way from where my stub came up for natural gas all the way over here. But my intention next year is, I needed some other fittings that I now have, is to be able to use flex pipe for the last little bit so we can move the heater around and have a little more flexibility. I also need to get the pipe mounted to the wall so it's permanently mounted. But we got the pipe in, we used the Teflon tape. You should use some water and some bubbles or some anti-leak stuff to basically test and make sure you absolutely do not have any leaks in it. I also have a gas testing tool that I bought online from Amazon for about $30. That's what you see here. And so you can run this across any of the joints and make sure that you don't have any gas leaks coming out. And that's basically it for the gas stuff. The electrical needs on this were really minimal. And all there is the blower in the end here that needs electrical. And so we ended up buying a electrical cord with a prong already on it. It's plugged into extension cord, which you shouldn't do, but we put it under some under a garbage bag here just to keep a little bit of the water off of it for right now. But basically just like a 12-foot electrical cord, brought it in here with some wire nuts and then connected it in on the other side. It's just standard 110. The system actually comes pre-set up for 220, but you can see there's some jumpers up here. There's the little white thing with the red dot on it. It was actually set up for 220. So following the directions, you literally pull one of those out and put the other one in, and it converts it to 110. I'm just guessing that a lot of pool installations already have 220 at them for some reason, for the pumps or something. And so that's their standard. But again, Hayward did a really good job, not only with the altitude plates, but with the electrical. You just got to read the directions and read it really clearly. The other thing you can see on here is it needed an earth ground. And so we bought the copper wire and ended up driving an earth ground into this is a retaining wall. And so you can see over here, we got an earth ground that got driven in and connected that. That's absolutely vital to what we're doing. From a plumbing standpoint, all the white stuff you see that's not the flexible pipe is just standard 2-inch PVC pipe that we connected with PVC glue or ABS, ABS glue, whatever the case may be. And then I bought a couple of other sections of just the Intex pipe from the Intex website. It's just 1.5 inch, the standard. It seems like it's standard in the pool industry, but I got all the Intex stuff. But between the 2-inch sections and the Intex pipe, we were able to get everything we need, not only to extend the pool connections, but get everything connected in here. And as I mentioned before, these are called the unions. These come from the Hayward company. And I was able, there's a pack of them over here against the wall. I was able to buy an extra pack online for about $30. So if I ever need to change anything else out. This is a pressure relief valve, which was important. There was a plug I had to take out. I ended up buying this one for about $50 online. It's specific to the Hayward brand. It's the other ones have a some sort of a probe or something at the one I bought at Home Depot that's too long and it's not properly set up for this. And then I just got a little piece of nipple material and mounted it down here. And this way, if the pressure ever got too hot in there or too much pressure, it would have an output for the water. But I think that's really important. I can see how people wouldn't do that, but that's, I think, important. The one piece you'll see missing from here, I just had to take it out a couple weeks ago, was the backflow valve was right here. One of the bandings on it was leaking for some reason, and it was easier to just order another one, and so I'm waiting for that to be shipped to me. Not sure I'll install it this year, but we didn't want to miss any pool season, so I literally just took it out and connected directly from this elbow into here, but there should be a backflow valve. They make them specific for pools. You can also buy them for sump pumps. It's about a $30 device, and so we come, again, on the left side here, this is just coming in from our pump. This is the output from the pump and the filter. It comes in this side here. It heats the water as it goes through here, and then we come back out. In theory, there's a backflow valve here. This goes into the saltwater system, and then from the saltwater system here, it goes around and about in our case, and ultimately comes up and goes into the pool. It's surprising how well it works. You can also, as an option, put a bypass valve in here. I just didn't have enough space to do it, and there was really no practical reason for me to do it in this application, but do know you can cut in a bypass valve here and be able to have it so that nothing goes through the heater if you're needing to do some type of work on it. It just wasn't that important in my application. You notice I don't have a separate vent on this. We wanted to try it and see. We have quite an open air area here, and so we're fortunate. Most of these devices are low NOx. I think that's required by a California code, even though we're in Colorado. And so I don't have it out here today, but I have a CO detector I kept out here for a couple of weeks. We never even registered the slightest amount of carbon dioxide on it, or carbon monoxide. And so we think that it gets plenty of ventilation and isn't gonna, gas anybody that's down here. But they definitely do make a venting kit, an optional venting kit. You can buy it online where it says hot. It definitely is hot. And you can put a 4-inch vent on it. And I had provisions if I needed to get it up and out of here, but we didn't need it. The one thing I will say about smells and venting is when we first turned this on, it ran for about an hour or two. And it smelled a lot like a furnace when you first started up in the fall season. So there was probably a lot of paint and oils and things like that inside that were burning off. It smelled a little funny. I was worried a little bit about it. We kept everybody away from it, but those burned off in about 1 to 2 hours, and it's been excellent ever since that time. We'll go ahead and get it started up here in just a second so I can show you how it works. But a couple of safety things I'll show you is we currently do have the cover off just because we were using it earlier today, and I want to show you how the temperature works. But the cover is incredibly vital and probably the best thing that we were able to do all summer in keeping the temperature in. Once you spend the money, whether you use solar or you pay for a heater, keeping the heat in is very, very important. Yesterday, we heated this pool to about 95 degrees. It got around our house probably in the 40s in temperature or 50s. With the cover on overnight, we only lost 6 degrees in temperature. So when we came down this morning, it was still 87 degrees. And a big part is we had that bubble wrap type cover on it. Another thing we do from a safety standpoint, not right this minute, but when we're done using the pool for the day, 100% of the time we pull out the ladder so the kids can't get in there. I think that's incredibly important. And obviously, a pool can be really, really dangerous. Ours is fully fenced all the way around, and we take safety very, very seriously. So let's go ahead and check out the pool heater, and I'll show you how it works, and then we'll wrap up here. So the very first thing we're gonna do, it may get just a little louder, is we're gonna go ahead and turn on the pool filter in the pump. Come back here. We hit our button to get it going. Okay, now the filter and the pump are working. You can hear it working. The timer's on. You can see on our screen here, the temperature, at least what it's seeing right now, what's coming into the heater is 88 degrees, which is great. We used it a little bit earlier. You can see that it's on swimming pool mode, which we happen to have set at minimum of 65. The water circulating through, we'll go check the water temperature really quick. Okay, this is using our ambient weather wireless sensor. It's showing 93 degrees in the temperature right now. We'll try to make it a little warmer just for this demonstration. Come back over here. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and turn this on to spa mode and set it up at 96. So the water that's coming through there now is 88. I'm calling for temperature 96. I can hear the fan starting up. We're gonna see it spin here in just a minute. It's gonna try to do 96 degrees. Let's give it just a moment. The blower motor's starting. The burners are gonna kick in 1 second. They're down at the bottom here. I just have the service panel off, which is what you see right here. The burners are gonna kick on in just 1 second. Again, it's very important that the pump be running. I'm not running the saltwater system now, but there's no reason not to. The burners just kicked on. I can feel the exhaust heat coming out. This heat is very, very hot. You wanna make sure that nobody touches that. Luckily, in my case, it all dissipates before it gets to the stairs. Now it's heating the water. I believe it's heating it at about 120 degrees. So here's our output. The water here is almost hot enough to burn my hand. I'll grab the temperature sensor. I wouldn't want to hold my hand here very long. It's probably 110 or so degrees. Let's grab this. Sorry for moving all around on you. Okay, I don't know if you can see the water coming out there. This isn't perfect, but this is showing the water temperature right there, not necessarily what's coming out, but it's showing at 92 degrees. So you're just gonna have to trust me that the water coming out of there is super warm, and that's how we heat our pool. I hope you found the video helpful. I hope you'll subscribe to my page. I hope you'll provide any comments down below constructively, and enjoy your pool season.